Hey everyone. Hi. Hey everyone. Oh my gosh. I have to be totally honest with you. This is my third take of this actual video. I didn't have my mic set up the first time. The second time I set up, my mic didn't pick anything up. I'm really hoping third time's a charm. And if not, I'm not sure of anything anymore then. Anyway, Mother Nature is at it again. We have the potential for a storm coming through. I'm hoping it's not as bad as what they're calling for, but the winds have picked up already, and it is early in the morning. And when I say early, it's just before 11 o'clock in the morning of the when this video is going to be shown. So for anyone who's in Ontario, let's hope that Mother Nature just kind of takes it easy on us and it doesn't get too crazy here. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, today we're going to be talking about the 5 pillars that I have come up with for my course, Being Intentionally Creative. Imagine a tent that is being set up for a wedding or has been set up for a circus, and there are poles that are supporting that tent. And that's sort of what I came up with for a visual for myself when it came to having these different pillars. There's only 5 of them, one for, the 4 corners, and then the ultimate one that's in the center, which I think is the most important pillar of all. But the other 4 feed into that specific pillar. And I want to talk about these 5 pillars today and give you sort of where I see them fitting into our creative journey, because I think they're incredibly important. And I think they tie sort of more together of this idea of being intentionally creative and understanding more about our creative journey, if you will. And that is the first pillar that we're going to start out with. Now, I have a Cricut machine, and so I, came up with this because I wanted something that looked like a pillar. And yes, they look like Roman time pillars. But anyway, so the first one is journey. These are in no specific order. The first 4, as I say, though, they're the outside pillars, and then we'll have the center pillar. I think of our creative life as a journey. We are constantly evolving with the journey we are going on. We start here, we move here, and we just continue to evolve. When I was growing up, writing was my biggest love. I could spend hours writing. I had a father who read to me. I think that's where I got my love for books, and then I just progressed from there. I had a wild imagination. Even to this day I do. It's not always in the right direction. It sometimes tends to be more negative than positive, but that's irrelevant right now. But it's evolved, and I've been on a journey. So when I was growing up, because I love to write so much, I had often envisioned myself of living in New York, having a place that overlooks Central Park, and being the next Danielle Steele. I love sharing that because I think it's incredibly important, because I did have a big dream of that. I was writing before, I became a teenager. I was writing in my teenage years, in my early 20s and 30s. And then it waned a little bit because of, life and circumstances and whatnot. But I've always had a love for writing. In 2018, my journey changed. I then went into art. Now, writing's an art form. Everything's an art form of one sort of another. And I got into paint pouring, and then I evolved into resin. And now I'm trying to sort of bring those two together. And I also do card making. So anything that's creative in nature, with lots of color, with lots of glitz and glitter, I am all over it. Absolutely love it. And it's been a journey for me. It's been an evolving of from one thing to another, and sometimes bringing those things together. So I can use my writing in my paint pour. So I could do a paint pour and then put something I've written on it, or, embed it in it somehow. But it's been a consistent journey for me, through my creative. And back then I never even realized I was being creative, but it was constantly evolving, and it was constantly a journey. So journey to me is one of the sort of, it had to be there. It was part of the pillars. Now the next one, and some people may think this is, I'm trying to think this is the way it goes. So the next one is adventure. And if I can't laugh at myself, well, then I've got not a lot going for me. So, adventure. Now, you may think that journey and adventure are sort of one and the same, but I see a slight difference between the two of them. Imagine you're going on vacation. The journey is getting you there. So, you're packing, you're driving to the airport if you have to, you're getting on a plane if you have to, and then you're landing in your destination. And that's your journey. But it's what's happening along the way that becomes an adventure. So if something goes on at the airport, once you land at your destination, your journey's in a way has ended, but now you get the adventures of places you go to. If you're visiting with people, if you're going on some sort of adventure as far as a destination. When we were on the islands, there were different things you could do. So you could go to different islands to see different things, or you could do things that were being planned within the resort. So there was always an adventure happening. Yes, you'd be sort of on a journey to get to that adventure, but there was an adventure happening. So that's sort of where I'm splitting the two up. A journey gets you somewhere. It's the adventure you go on once you're there. And that's why I have those two pillars. Adventures will change. The journey is, I'm coming home now from being on vacation, and the adventures, and when I get home, then I have new adventures to explore and get into. So that's really where the difference with those two comes in. So those are those two. Next one is self-expression, which again, it's one of those things I think that we really need to pay attention to. Sometimes we get stuck with following what other people are doing. The best one I can use for that example is the people who have been doing the sea scenes with resin. They're beautiful. Everyone's got their unique way of, what colors they're using, where they're putting the sand, where they're putting the waves, which I still haven't figured out how to do. However, everyone's doing it. For me, the self-expression comes into, sure, use that as your backdrop, but what can you add to that to make it your own so that it's not looking like the masses out there? For me, when I've done that, I have a butterfly mold that I pour the resin into. The front there's a pattern of flowers on it, but on the back I can do whatever I want. And I did a, quote, ocean sea scene, if you will, with the colors and whatnot, but then I also added to it. So I had a boat in the water. I had a little island that had a palm tree on it, and I think a chair. I don't think I had any people. And then I believe I had birds, flying off in the distance. And to me, that made it unique. That expressed who I was, and it wasn't following the norm of what everyone else was doing. And I really empower people to use their self-expression. It doesn't have to be the same as everyone else. I look at Pablo Picasso, who I'm a huge fan of, because he did things differently when it came to portraits. And I'll call what he did, some of his were portraits. I mean, they were the shape of people's faces, where he used vibrant colors. He used so many different designs in it that it captured your attention. Like, you could probably spend hours, looking at his paintings, because they were so unique and so different, and there'd be so much you could see in it. I love when I can do a paint pour and it inspires people to see different things within it that I may not even see because of the lens I'm looking through. I think self-expression is so valid, and it allows you so much more freedom as far as coming up with ideas, using your imagination. And when you can use your imagination to the highest and greatest good of others, it opens up possibilities and can send you down a different trajectory that maybe you hadn't been thinking of before, but now you can, because you've allowed your self-expression to come out. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a really good thing. And if I feel more people would be open to hearing people's ideas, there'd be a lot more solutions in the world than there would be actual problems. But we're not always willing to listen to the ideas of others because we can't see it ourselves. And we need more discussion around that. We need to understand that someone who may not have been in a role for very long may have some really good ideas because they don't have sort of the politics behind what's been going on, and they can bring new ideas. Kids can figure out things adults can't because they're not skewed by sort of all this stuff coming at them. So I think where people want to use their self-expression and do it in a good way is very helpful to everyone else, because it opens up the potential for new ideas and how things can be put together. Or we can take this idea, but we can expand on it and take it over here and make it really unique and unusual, versus just getting sort of everyone doing the same thing. Then we can't evolve, I don't think. We need to have someone break that mold and go, this is great, now I'm going to add to it. And that's what I do when I watch a lot of videos, is I see what people are doing, and then all of a sudden an idea comes into my head, and I think, well, what if we did this? And we took it that one step further. And everyone learns from that, and everyone builds on that. And we have to evolve. We can't stay where we are. We have to evolve with our self-expression, but again, to the highest and greatest good of ourselves and others. I think that's really, really important. Now, the next one I've gotten some pushback on, and that's totally cool. But this one is breaking creative rules. Now, someone who is set in their ways would think I'm nuts and we can't do that. And I'm here to tell you, oh, yes, we can. And I've done it. I want you to imagine, because I love using the word imagine because it gets you thinking outside of that box, is you're making a cake. Now, I totally get it. When you are making a cake, you need to follow the directions as far as how the cake needs to be made, so it rises the way it needs to, so it is tastes the way it's supposed to at the end of the day. Fair enough. Follow the directions, like add your milk, add your eggs, add your oil, whatever it is you need to add to make that cake be a cake. However, then I think you can start breaking creative rules after that. You can add flavoring to that cake. When it comes to decorating, how are you going to decorate it? My mom used to make angel food cakes. She used to put whipped cream on them, but not just plain whipped cream, although I think she probably did once in a while. She made maple mousse. She added chocolate into her whipped cream. She added strawberries into her whipped cream. Food coloring into her whipped cream. Put things and sprinkles and blah, blah, blah on that whipped cream that went on top of the angel food cake. She put money in our cakes. Granted, back in the day, it was like dimes, nickels, quarters, that kind of thing. Towards the end, it was loonies and toonies, which was really cool. My point being, let's not just look at a cake as this is how it has to be. Yes, make the cake so it, comes out the way a cake is supposed to, right? However, then you can start to play, adding flavoring to the cake mix, how you decorate it, whether you put money in it or not. Now we should be up to, $5 and $10 bills, but that lends itself to being a little dicey when it comes to cutting. But my point is, sometimes we have to break the rules in order to evolve, in order to come up with new ideas. And I think of critics who say, no, you can't do that, or, that's not the way it's meant to be done. I look at some of these people who are out there in the world who have become famous because of what they've done. And they criticize what's, people who are working their way up to maybe be in the same echelon as what they are, and sort of blowing these people aside. And I don't know whether it's because of the fact that these people have really innovative ideas and they don't like that, or it's just because it doesn't fit into what they see the creative, realm of whatever it is you're in being. But I don't like critics, because the biggest thing that they do is they slam you into a wall and then you lose faith in yourself. I will never do that to anybody, because I've had it done to me. I know what it feels like, and I know how it stunts people from moving ahead and doing brilliant things. Now, there's some people who would go, yeah, whatever, and carry on. And I'm sort of at that point in my life, and I would like to see more people in their creative journey looking at that going, you know what? No, that doesn't fit you. Fair enough. I get it. But I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, because I know I can evolve it. I know I can take it where it needs to go. I had my husband say to me once when I was working on my book of poetry, and I had someone say, and they were throwing at me every which way what so the pitfalls were. And I came home and I thought, boy, here it is, I'm trying to do something that's really important to me. And all I got was all the pitfalls. And my husband said to me, "You're competition." And I had never looked at it that way, because I never really thought of myself as being competition with somebody else, because we are all different. All our creativity is going to be different. And so, thinking I was competition was just sort of, it seriously was outside the realm of what I was thinking. But it made sense. And I sometimes wonder if these people that are way up here are thinking you're competition. So I have to sort of berate you. I have to bring you back down so that you don't get to the level I am, without even realizing that my level would be different from your level, from their level, from someone else's level. So the self-expression, breaking creative rules, again, as long as it's the highest and best of yourself and everyone else, I don't see a problem with it. And it allows us to explore. It allows us to grow. And I guess I look at kids too, and I think, they're in this world. They've been, this is where they've come to. They're so intelligent. They have so many great ideas. And yet, as adults, we kind of push that down and say, no, you got to stop. But they are the next generation. Their kids are the next generation. And they have solutions that we as adults, because we're not, we've sort of been stifled in how we have to think, we can't come up with some of the creative ideas we need to in order to evolve this world into a better direction, so that we keep expanding, we keep growing, and we keep getting better. Whereas, kids will look at something, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like, genius. And I'd like to see more of that in school, where the teachers truly listen to the kids, because they have great ideas. They can see things we can't see. And their imagination, which is what we need more of, can lend itself to great solutions. So I'm very much like self-expression, incredibly important. I do that with how I dress, right? I don't want to get into the stigma that I'm in my late 50s, so I have to be a certain way. No, I don't. And if you're so uncomfortable with that, then I would have to question why. What has, sort of been put into your mind that says, at this age, you got to do it this way? Because no, you don't. I have to be happy. You have to be happy. If it doesn't fit with what other people think, okay, so it doesn't fit. You let them lead their lives, I'll lead mine, and we carry on. And we would be much better for it if the majority of people could see that. But again, it's sort of taken away from us when we get into school, and it's like, no, this is the way it has to be. And I really think we have to change that mentality for the kids' sake, for the next generation's sake, because we're not going to be around forever. So let's get them thinking in a creative way and a broadening way. And these first 4 pillars, they'll do that if we're willing to allow and listen to the ideas that this younger generation, these younger generations, the future generations have. Let's sort of break the stigma. Let's get ideas and solutions running forward. All right, my last pillar is my center pillar. Bar none, to me, it is the most important pillar, and that is joy. All right. Now, why joy? For anyone who's creative, and we all are, but for anyone who really steps into that role of being creative, when you lose track of time, when you're in the zone, when you're doing something you love to do, and it's just flowing forth, you will get to the end of your day and you will have joy. I guarantee it. Because you're doing what you love to do. You're allowing your imagination to take you to unknown places. You're coming up with ideas. You're just so engrossed in what you're doing that reality matters none. Now, I would have said, had this not been my third go at this video today, that I have been in the zone. The second time I was in the zone better than the first time, but I'm in a zone of, I don't know how much time this is taking me. I love my course. I absolutely love my course. So when I present it, I can do it in such a way that just I hope it comes through the video, and it may not always, and I do my best to make sure it does, but there's just a sense of I'm allowing people to see me the way I feel I am, to express and get people like really engaged in this whole creative concept. And when I'm there and I'm doing something I love to do, time means nothing. Reality is I don't even care what's going on outside my four walls, and I'm just in the midst of it and nothing else matters. That is such a beautiful thing. When I can get to the end of the day and that's what I've had, and time has just gone. Time is a construct of man. It's been around for, millions of years. I get that. But when you're in that creative whatever, then time means nothing. You start at 9 o'clock in the morning and all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock and you go, wow, it feels like 5 minutes. And that's what being in the zone. That's what truly tapping into your creativity, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. It's just a beautiful thing. When I was in the corporate world and I'd go to work some days, when I was truly in that zone, not even knowing anything about this creativity, really getting it, it was like I would get there at 7 in the morning and it'd be 3:30 and it was like, wow, where did today go? Those are the days I loved. The days that it was slow, where I didn't have a lot going on, where my mind was too much in reality, that day felt like 3 days. That's the difference. When you can go on a journey, enjoy the adventure along the way, express yourself your way, break creative rules that are safe to do. When I work with my resin, I have to be safe. I have to follow the manufacturer guidelines. I have to be careful about what I put in that resin. But the design of it, the shapes that I'm making with it, from the molds I'm using, the colors I'm adding, I can break creative rules left, right, and center. I can put colors together that other people would say, are you out of your mind to do? I've come up with really cool ideas because I've done that. And time has meant nothing. Nothing. I've had a smile on my face at the end of the day. I felt accomplished. I felt at peace with myself. That's what creativity is all about, and that's what I want more people to do. And I seriously want my generation, and maybe the generation that's right behind me, to realize there are children coming into this world that have creativity all around them. They have solutions to problems. We need to start listening to them. And I think we seriously, like Ken Robinson would say, we have to start getting our school system, our education system, to start looking at things differently. Getting teachers who are open to learning from these kids and bringing some of their ideas into play, because they are smart beyond belief. They're creative beyond belief. Let's not knock that out of them, and let's get them oriented to these 5 pillars and being able to allow them to express themselves and get them into, things they want to do, not what they feel they have to do because someone else has told them, because of what the outside world is saying needs to be. I think that's wrong now. I think we have to change course, and I think we need to let that creativity grow. Because when you have people who are in roles where they're being creative the way they need to be creative, so much more gets done. And there's so much more joy in the lives of people at the end of the day that it is just, if you've been there, if you've done it, you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. I want to come up with a new term versus soapbox, because that is very, I think, like 1950-ish, maybe even earlier than that. So I'm going to see if I can't come up with a new word, because I love doing that. I hope you found this useful. I hope you have found it as another opening to your creative beingness, because it's important. To me, I think those pillars are incredibly important, and they will help expand our world, and they would help us to come up with more solutions to more things, and just be more creative in general, because we're allowing ourselves that freedom to look beyond. We've done so many fantastic things. We've always evolved, whether it be science, whether it be pharmaceuticals, whether it be getting a man on the moon, people want to go to Mars, have fun with that. I'm not going with you. I have no desire to go to Mars. I want to stay planted on terra firma Earth here. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it's sort of expanded your being intentionally creative. And again, if you feel there's someone in your world that maybe needs to listen to these, please share it with them. And again, I welcome any comments, because again, this isn't just about me. This is about the whole of the world and us moving beyond where we are now and evolving even more. Anyway, have a great day. Be intentionally creative. Take care, and bye for now.